Well, first I want to welcome everybody to the Conspiracy of Goodness Network. This is a gigantic, well-intending attempt to offer the world a different kind of social network, one that is advancing goodness and progress in the world. Totally focused on that. Totally welcoming people that that want to put their best impulses forward and be multipliers for others. So tonight we are super lucky at the Conspiracy of Goodness Network, this webinar event tonight, to have our CEO at Ever Widening Circles. If some of you are coming to us from places where you're unfamiliar with that, Ever Widening Circles is the only place on the internet that is pointing to insight and innovation going uncelebrated without politics or advertising. So we are just trying to say no agenda. The world is still an amazing place. And here you can find thousands of articles and links to people doing good in the world. And Liesl is one of them. So Liesl graduated from Harvard in 2015, and she had traveled, I think she had been in probably 30 countries before the age of 22. And she's an Irish citizen. She has an Irish passport, and she could have gone and done many, many things in the world. But she chose this. She chose to devote a good part of her young, very dialed in sense of progress and hope for the world towards the Ever Widening Circles project. And along the way, she graduated from Harvard with an economics degree and a competing focus in art and design and education. So, and these departments barely talk to each other at Harvard. So this is an out-of-the-box thinker that's going to talk to us about curiosity tonight. Liesl has recently done the soft launch of the Conspiracy of Goodness Network, this social networking site that we hope to launch firmly in a few more months, where people of good intention can come together. And tonight, Liesl is going to share with us all how curiosity can help our journeys. You know, we're coming out of the pandemic, lots of us with a sort of itchiness, like we're not quite finished, or like there was something we're uniquely built to contribute, and we're not quite there yet. And I'm going to let Liesl take it from here because she has all kinds of ideas about how curiosity can be our vehicle for whatever comes next in our life. So Liesl, welcome. Thanks for sharing all your creative energy and intellect, and help us just get catapulted forward tonight.
Well, thank you so much. For those who don't know, Dr. Linda is also my mom. We are a mother-daughter team that runs this whole show. So if I refer to her as mom awkwardly, it's because she is. I'm not just taking somebody that I love and accidentally calling them mom. But I'm so glad to be presenting to you guys tonight to talk about curiosity. And I'm going to start off by doing the awkward thing where I try and share my screen and then somebody gives me the thumbs up that I am indeed sharing my screen properly. So we can get started this evening and really get into it. So let's get started here. So for those, like Linda said, those who don't know, I'm the CEO of Ever Widening Circles. And for the past 7 years now, we have been diving into the world of people who are making the world a better place. We are connecting with thought leaders from around the globe who have taken their purpose in life and combined it with goodness to create things that are truly making a difference in all of our lives. And so this evening, I want to take the insights that they have given us over the years and help you all use curiosity as a way of finding purpose, making meaning in the world, and setting goals that actually feel like they're fulfilling something. So as Mom alluded to at the top, you know, we are seeing this shift happen in the world. People from recent graduates, we've got some young people on the call today, to 9-to-5ers, to people that are working on a second climb. They're deciding that it's time for them to start living with purpose. And I think that this is because of two reasons. One, We are looking at people feeling a lack of clarity. It feels like there's so much going on. What do I do next? Do I decide to quit my job and start the next thing? This tragedy has just happened in the world. How do I respond personally? We're constantly bouncing around looking for clarity. And the second thing that I think is pushing this movement towards wanting to live with purpose is this feeling of a lack of fulfillment, right? For those who are 9 to 5ers, it might be, wow, like, is what I'm doing really mattering in life? Is what I'm doing really working towards some bigger goal? And so, in this vacuum of clarity and fulfillment, I think people are looking to feel a sense of purpose in what they do. So, this evening, we're going to talk about purpose. We're going to use curiosity as our guide to bring us through and figure out what our purpose is. And through all of that, help us find clarity and fulfillment once again. So we're going to start at that question mark point and hopefully get us to that clarity and fulfillment point. I'm guessing it won't be tonight. If it does, I've done a great job, let everybody know about us, like, props, but I think it'll take a little more time than just one evening, but we're going to get through this curiosity piece to find that clarity and fulfillment. So I'm an equations gal. Like Mom said, I studied economics and also design, which is a weird world. So I like to make equations that look like this, which is, first up, purpose plus meaning equals clarity. So there's a strange alchemy that happens when you are able to take your life's purpose and apply it to the meaning that you're making in the world and get clarity. Imagine, we've had 2 recent tragedies happen in the world, Haiti, what's happening in Afghanistan. I think it's left us all with sort of an unease. What do we do next? But if we understand our purpose, if my purpose in life is to help understand all the possibility that's out there, and I can assign meaning to what's happening in the world, this bad thing has happened and I want to do something about it, I can get clarity. I can say, okay, my role is to now expose people to the wonders of what Afghanistan had, and or to let people know about how they can donate to Haiti, right? And then when we look at fulfillment, how do we get fulfillment? Again, a strange alchemy of what happens when we apply purpose to goals. All right. If we're just out there making goals, flying around, and we don't apply purpose, we either forget that we have to celebrate our goals every once in a while, or we start making goals like, I'm going to start journaling, and then we quickly forget that we even set that goal the day before, right? So really looking at this alchemy. So let's get into what these words mean. So purpose is your aspirational why. We've seen so many people over the course of writing Forever Widening Circles, so many people who have this central guiding sort of point within them, right? And it can be amorphous and blobby, or it can be very specific. You can say, I am going to be a yoga teacher and teach everyone yoga. Or it could be something different, like, I want to inspire people to see more possibility in the world. That's my amorphous and blobby one. And really, it is about what you are uniquely built to do. So I think a lot of the time we come to things and we're told by a lot of people what's wrong with us. And I don't want this to be about what's a webinar about what's wrong with us. Your purpose is what you are uniquely built to do. And so you come to this already having the skills and knowledge you need to get there. And the reason why we need purpose, as I mentioned, is because it guides your direction and it guides your decisions. We have seen people that have purpose, they're able to know where to invest their time and money. It's incredible. When you watch a business person who understands their purpose, you watch them know where to go next. It helps us understand our emotions and how we should respond to things, right? If I don't have purpose, I think about myself, right? When I was in college or younger and I hadn't discovered my purpose, something bad comes my way and it was chaos. It was drama. It was, oh my gosh, my life is ending. I'm never going to graduate. I'm all these emotions. And when we have our sense of purpose, our emotional responses, instead of being a boat that goes way up and way down, it bobs. It doesn't go up as far. And on that same note, it gives us a sense of a horizon, right? When chaos is all around us, when we are unsure, we are still able to sort of look at that horizon of our purpose and see where the landscape goes next. I think we can all think of those moments in which we kind of are able to see things better when we know what's ahead of us and we know what we're working towards. So then when purpose and meaning are applied together, we get clarity, right? So meaning is how we make sense of the world. Meaning is, again, how I understand tragedy, how I understand the bad things that happened in my childhood or the good things that happened in my childhood. And what we get from that is we're able to create takeaways from our experiences and have them build towards something, right? So instead of just me spending my afternoon, my last afternoons here in Vermont before I moved to another country, instead of just having them kind of float away, if I'm assigning meaning to them, I'm doing things more intentionally. I'm able to sort of make sure each foot is being put in front of the other. And I have clarity about, why I'm choosing to, spend the day cycling instead of packing, and not feel bad about a decision that I've made. And like I said, as we assign meaning, whether that's good or bad, we can learn to treasure these moments and we can learn to learn from them. So if we're just letting moments pass us by and we're not making any meaning, we're not really giving ourselves any fuel to get clarity on the world around us. And I think a statement that really wraps that all up is this one here: managing the meaning of every experience determines who we become. If we just go through life passively, and I know there's times, so many times, it almost feels like there's years that I have not assigned meaning to anything. And it feels like those years are kind of lost, right? As we assign meaning to things, as we learn to treasure moments or learn from moments, we're capable of having all those moments add up to something else, something bigger, and give us, again, a sense of clarity if we're given purpose. And of course, goals. I think this is one I struggle with the most. I think probably raise our hands if you've ever started a goal and then not accomplished it, or gotten to a goal and then decided like, okay, well, that's great. And then I moved on, I never celebrated it. So goals can really become these mileposts that mean nothing unless we decide that we have a purpose and we can get fulfillment from our goals, right? We don't want to turn goals into anything empty. So the biggest thing that I've learned about goal setting and having purpose, I've learned from a thought leader named Mary Liz Bender, who we've worked with. And she has made it her life's purpose to take the wisdom of the astronauts, what they see when they come back, what they've seen up when they've seen, the Earth from space, and why they become incredibly empathetic people who become philanthropists and artists. They have this overwhelming feeling of empathy, and she's trying to cultivate that in other people. And she's not an astronaut. She's a former musician and coder who was homeless at one time. And as she was going, she just decided this was her life's purpose, to teach people. And so every problem that she came up against, she had the courage to want to reach out to the highest people. She's now friends with all of the living astronauts. She was Bill Nye's assistant. I mean, this woman has, because she had the courage to have big goals, because she had purpose in life, she's able to attain them. And whenever she hit an obstacle, I loved what she said. She was on one of these workshops a while back, and she said, it's not, living with purpose isn't easy, but when you live with purpose, you're able to get to your goals because you're able to push through. So goals may push you forward, but it's really your purpose that pulls you to the finish line. And again, this goes back to, you have to assign purpose and meaning to your goals, or else they just kind of become mile markers of time. You're not learning from them. And I think we get fulfillment when we are able to apply purpose and goals together. So again, we're trying to get to fulfillment. We're trying to get to clarity. And this is sort of this, I call this the outward spiral. Sometimes at Ever Widening Circle, we talk about the downward spiral that people get into. But the outward spiral of purpose, meaning, goals is that purpose helps you make meaning, which gives you clarity about your goals, which helps you fulfill your purpose, which helps you make meaning of the next moment, which helps you set your next goal, which helps you live with purpose. So it is this sort of this wheel, this, if you will, ever widening circle, but we don't want to do too many puns here, that helps you get there. So again, if you like equations, here are the equations of purpose, meaning equals clarity, and purpose and goals equal fulfillment. So obviously there's a common denominator here in purpose. And I think that it's time to talk about how we get there. So purpose. Now is the time for us to really, we're thinking about purpose, set aside anything that is the get rich quick scheme. I am part of the hustle generation. We like to look at Instagram and think about what our side hustle is going to be, and what our next hustle is going to be, and what every hustle is going to be. And a lot of the time we forget to do, or we've been told by people, you should be a doctor, you should be a writer, you should be a, insert anything here. I think we've all had that experience. And I love this quote because it's time for us to step back. We need to think about not what the world needs, but rather what makes us come alive. And so don't ask yourself what the world needs, ask yourself what makes you come alive, and then go do that, because what the world needs is people who have become alive. So if all of you come alive and all of you are ready to do good in the world, and live with purpose, imagine if the world had 50 more people that were living with purpose, and then they were all connected. I mean, that is just exponential growth right there of goodness and of people who are really doing good in the world. And I put this quote here again, because this isn't a get rich quick scheme. This isn't a let's fix our lives tomorrow. This isn't a lose 10 pounds in 4 days. This is really something that takes some inner work, and that takes us a moment to sit back and look at all of the life experience that we've had, to honor all of the life experience that we had, to know what to do next, to engage with our curiosity, to get where we want to go next. So in talking to all of these wonderful thought leaders that we have engaged with over the years, we found there's 4 mileposts on the purpose-driven journey. Our first milepost is searching. Maybe we did this in our younger lives, maybe we're doing it right now. It's that all-out scramble because you know something is wrong, you're not feeling fulfillment and you're not feeling clarity, to find what you're uniquely built to contribute, right? I think I experienced this very much so in college, and I was doing things like reading every single book and running off to India and running off to, every single lecture I could go to. It was, to be my friend was to be friends with pure chaos, because I was just in such a searching mode. And then you've got the learning mode. Maybe you fall into, maybe you've already learned, you've already done the searching, and now you know where you want to head. The milepost is there, and now you want to head in that direction. Then you have the building stage, which I think at Ever Widening Circles we were in for years, right? So we had done the searching, we had done the learning. We now needed the skills, the tools that we didn't have to go build our purpose-driven life. And then finally, the connecting, what we're doing all here. All of this involves engaging our curiosity at all stages, so that what we're doing is, how do I put this? Moving us forward, right? Whenever we engage with an obstacle, we have curiosity as our way of moving through it. So let's start by finding purpose. I'm not sure how many, if you are in this section, please put it please say hey in the chat. But the searching part of the journey is, like I said, it's sort of chaotic. It's running everywhere. If we were a messy blob, we would be the kind of blob that's going like this. And as we are engaging with our searching, I implore you to ask yourself 4 questions. The first one is, what interests me now? Maybe all of a sudden you got into gardening through the pandemic. Maybe all of a sudden you re-stoked a love of writing or a love of books. Or maybe you found that like knitting is really interesting you right now. Just engage with your curiosity. Then ask yourself, what have you always been interested in? I was the kind of kid, when it comes to wanting to teach people about what's possible in the world. I was the kind of kid who, even when I was little, I would go watch something on PBS and then make my family and friends sit down for very long lectures, wearing cat eye glasses and a black beret with like a long pointer, telling them things about the Egyptian pharaohs and cheetahs and anything I learned on the television. So I really, when I look back, I laugh because there's so many pictures of me in this stupid little outfit, teaching and trying to help other people see possibility. And so it's funny, take a look at what you loved when you were a child, because there's always something there. I had somebody tell me, you grow up, but some little part of you always stays the same. And I think when you're really in the searching mode, try and connect with that little part of you that has stayed the same. Then ask yourself, what could I spend hours doing? What do you engage with? What do you get in that flow state with? I know for me, when I'm really engaged with a moment, really engaged, like when I was putting together this presentation, my brain was working 1,000 miles an hour. I was writing down, every possible permutation of those equations. I was loving the design aspect of this. So ask yourself, what could you spend hours doing? And then if you are in this moment, ask yourself, what would I do if my to-do list was done and I had all the time in the world today? If you had nothing else to do today, what would you choose to do? Because while these things may not be your purpose, while the answer to any of these things may not be your purpose, what they'll all do is give you a little piece of the puzzle towards finding what you are uniquely built to contribute. So start there, start with these questions and let your curiosity run wild. And as you're doing so, don't judge your own curiosity. Let yourself be free to be curious. Let yourself have that childlike wonder again, right? And as you're doing so, make sure you're managing the meaning of the exploration. Be a little bit more mindful. Be a bit, as you're being inquisitive, ask yourself, what did I learn from that thing that I just like? What did I like about that thing that I just saw? You know, the internet can be such a great tool for exploration if we let it be. So purpose plus meaning equals clarity. On this one, give yourself a little bit of time to make meaning of all the things that you're absorbing, because that's how you get clarity on the next stage of learning. So when we're in the learning stage, the questions that we ask ourselves start to become a little more poignant. You know, imagine if this is the chaos bubble of the learning of the searching stage. We start to move towards learning. We start to get a trajectory. We still may not have it all down, but now we're starting to take the common threads, the things that piqued our interest during the curiosity stage, and moving deeper and deeper into the learning stage. I think a great example of this is, and I'll steal Linda's own thunder. You know, for years and years, she was running around reading all the possible permutations of different, you know, philosophy books. And then as she moved into business, she found herself reading more and more of the best possible, you know, the New York Times bestseller book. So she found that if she could apply business to dentistry, she could apply business to wanting to care for people, that she could create an incredibly successful business. And so, you know, I think this is the interesting thing about the learning stage. We start to point ourselves in a direction, and we start to now make meaning of all of those things that we've let our curiosity run wild with. So here we can also ask ourselves, what does life look like for other people who have a similar purpose? Again, you're going to have a unique purpose, but you know, if you love marine biology, right? What is it like for people that love marine biology's purpose is something marine biology related? You may not be the type of person who wants to run off onto a boat. You may get seasick. So maybe you want to do some community learning. Maybe on your next vacation, you're choosing to do a little bit more learning or to do a bit more outreach or volunteering, right? So once you have an idea of how other people are incorporating their purpose into their lifestyle, you're able to now conceive of what your life might look like, get some clarity on what your next steps may look like. And the last question that I would ask you to ask when you're in this learning stage, because it's the next sort of step to the building stage, is what am I willing to change about my own life to live with purpose? And this is one where curiosity really does sort of take you away. You know, get curious. What are the pain points in your life right now? You know, you have to keep asking yourselves better questions as you build through this process so that you can start to overcome roadblocks in your way, right? Maybe I'm not willing to go, you know, sell my everything in my life and go move to the rainforest. But maybe instead I'm willing to do some outreach and education for local schools. Maybe I've learned that I have great skills in community organizing. Well, where are other people in my community that I can organize with, right? So as you're in this learning stage, it's really about sort of taking all that curiosity and now pointing it in a direction, because there's a lot of energy that you've built from the searching stage. And remember, your purpose is unique to your life circumstances. I know that I'm harping on this, but I think it's really important because I want to make sure that you all know that finding your purpose doesn't, and using curiosity doesn't mean you throw everything out. You use the things that you already have as building blocks to get where you want to go. And as you're doing so, you know, I think these days there's always somebody who's like, oh, I'm only going to follow this one thought leader. He's the greatest guy. He's got all the answers. And I implore you to step back and know that there's no one thinker and no one guru that has all the answers. The thing I say to most young people when I'm talking to them, because they're like really excited about one guy, usually it's a guy, and I say, wait, okay, so if that person doesn't, if you run up against something that this guy doesn't have an answer to, what are you going to do, right? So I always implore people to look around and look for a lot of different people and look at a lot of different ideas so that you can get an understanding of how, when push comes to shove, somebody's got the knowledge that you need to make the next choice. So now we're into the building stage. Like I said, we were here for years. Mom and I, when we started, we knew nothing about running an online business. I was a recent grad who wanted nothing to do with goodness, and she was previously a dentist who knew nothing about the internet. So not two people that you'd necessarily think would be running an online business that had to do with goodness. But here we are building our skills and building a base of knowledge. And as we did so, we really sat down and we said, what does the ideal life look like for us? We had learned from the learning stage that there was all these different ways people could run an online business. There was all these different ways you could run a media company. There was all these different ways you could talk about good news. But what did we want our lives to look like? And we had to get really curious and talk to one another about that, so that we could actually build something that we wanted to be a part of. Right? Don't let yourself get carried away as you're building your life. You get to have the reins here. And then we had to ask ourselves, what tools are we missing, right? What people don't we have in our lives? Like I said, we knew nothing about building a website. We knew nothing about marketing. We knew nothing about PR. We knew nothing about writing a book. We knew nothing about making an app. And now we have an app, we have a platform, we have a book, we have all these things because we were willing to work on ourselves and grow the tools. The building stage is about a little bit about turning inward and saying, what do I need to work on? And so, if you're in this stage, take a moment. What do you need to work on? Take a moment to reflect on that, and you will start to build a purpose-driven life if you take a moment to reflect. And last up, what skills do I need to acquire or build? This is such a huge one. We never stop learning. We always continue to grow. Life is this lifelong learning is probably something most of us, if not all of us on this call, value. And really, in the building stage is something we will always be in, right? There will always be a new skill to acquire. There will always be a new tool for us to master, because that's how we're going to keep growing our potential and keep living with purpose. Is we have to be willing to keep growing and building ourselves and building the life we want to live. I don't think anybody has ever said, okay, and place the final brick on their life's work. I think we're always in a process of making our life's work better and connecting with more and more people. So again, this building stage is probably going to be where you start to set goals. And I want to remind you what I said at the top. Purpose lets you do the hard things, and there are going to be a lot of hard things that happen as you go through this process. And so here is where I think purpose and goals together can create fulfillment. The building part, I think, is one of the most fun parts. Maybe the connecting part, because we get to do things like this, is really great. But the purpose, this is the hard part. And if you're not taking moments to celebrate the small victories, if you're not taking moments to let yourself sort of bask in the goodness that's happening around you and feel like you're doing more when you're setting your goals and achieving a life lived with purpose, I think you're missing something. And I think you can find a lot of fulfillment if you're able to take this part of your journey and really focus on the goals and attach them to purpose. So last up is the connecting. The curiosity questions here that we ask are, how do I amplify the good I'm doing in the world? How do I become a part of a bigger thing? Are there other people who have been on similar journeys? Who is there to support me when I need help? This is my favorite part because it involves other people. We're all here today, all of us, 40 people who got curious about something, 40 people who, if we turned on all of our mics and we were able to go off in little rooms together, we would find things in common. We would help one another. We would give each other the next, tip that we needed in order to make our life better, in order to take our life experiences and help somebody else. People want to help. And if we don't ask for help, we're not going to get it. So this connecting point part is so, so valuable for figuring out how we continue to progress and amplifying the good that we do. Like I said, we each have a piece of this puzzle, and unless we're willing to connect, we're never going to have the full puzzle together. We all have answers to our little niches. You might know just the right person to do our marketing. I might know just the right person to build your website, or I might know just the right course to get you inspired to go do that volunteering, right? We all have this capability to help one another. And I think one of the most wonderful things that we can do is to connect in this purpose-driven journey, because that's how we're going to continue to grow. So as we're sitting here thinking about the searching, the learning, the building, and the connecting, I want you to get curious. And this is the part that I think, I want you to have something to do tomorrow. So if you feel like you are if you're in the searching stage, you are wildly curious about the world, head over to Ever Widening Circles. We've got almost 2,000 articles over there on any subject under the sun. Longtime readers will know we'll write one thing one day on, squids that have bacteria in their stomach that fool fish into thinking they're little moons, all the way to TED Talks that will help you get over procrastination. I mean, it runs the gamut there, and we do that on purpose because people like you are curious, and we want them to take all that knowledge and try and find purpose in their life. And then if you're in the learning stage, if you're at the point where you're like, okay, I know what I'm uniquely built to contribute, and now I have no idea how to apply that to my life, head over to the Conspiracy of Goodness podcast. I'm going to send out an email after this to everybody who's on here, with a couple of our favorite episodes from people who have really nailed it when it comes to living with purpose. But that podcast is such a great tool in your toolkit to start learning about the ways people who are making a real difference in the world made it work, which I think is just something super incredible. And they also will tell you why they think it's still an amazing world, which the work that some of these people do, you would think, wow, that seems really difficult, but they have insights that even if we're not going off and saving the rainforest personally, we can apply to our daily lives. For those that are in the building stage, I really recommend you go and check out Dr. Linda's book, Happiness is an Option. Thriving instead of surviving in the age of the internet. This gives you some really practical tools to start seeing a better world around you, both in your online life and in your daily life. And as we build a purpose-driven life, it really behooves us to have those kind of skills, those skills that help us pause, see more good in the world, and then be able to share it with others. And finally, if you're in the connecting phase of things, you're probably already in the right spot. Here at the Conspiracy of Goodness Network. The network itself is such a wonderful place for people to come together, share knowledge. We do seasonal challenges that help us become better people and also solve problems in the world. We also do monthly meetups like this. They're a little bit more interactive, as well as workshops that help you improve skills. Last month we had an incredible one about business mindfulness, and having our breathing and body help us achieve that. So there's all kinds of incredible things that we do over on the Conspiracy of Goodness Network. And as Linda talked about on the top, we're really trying to put the social back in social media and create a place that's filled with positivity. So my final thing as I wrap up here and enter questions is if any of this interests you, if you are on the journey to find purpose in life, we have an upcoming summit, and you know what you're doing October 10th, and you know that you're free. If you don't, throw it on there. We are having our second annual Conspiracy of Goodness Summit on October 10th. We have 6 incredible thought leaders that are coming to speak with us at that event. They are all living with purpose, and they all have, again, that little piece of the puzzle that we need in order to make sense of the world around us and live with more purpose. So please join us for that. It is really the roadmap and the community to living your purpose-driven life. This year, it's super wonderful. We're actually hosting it on the Conspiracy of Goodness Network. So with your ticket, you will also get access to the Conspiracy of Goodness Network until December, which is great because I'm one of those people who I want to know who everybody is when I walk into the room. And this is a virtual conference, so walk into the virtual room before I get there. And then afterward, I get, maybe we call it conference fever. I get really excited about all the people that I've met. And then I never get a chance to reconnect with them or take that energy anywhere. And so this year, with being able to connect on the network, we'll be able to sustain that excitement and help one another as we all move towards living with purpose. And so you can go to cogsummit.com and use the code Curiosity20 in order to get a discount there as a thank you for coming and joining us this evening. So as I wrap up here and we open up to questions, I want to thank you for being curious enough to join us here. And I want to thank you for deciding that you want to live with purpose. I think one of the most important things in this world is that we get more people like yourselves to come together. I don't know if you know this, but the word conspiracy is made up of 2 words, con, which means with, and spirare, which means breathe. And so I think we're all breathing together right now when it comes to wanting more good in the world, wanting more good for ourselves, and wanting to amplify goodness in the world through living with purpose. And so I thank you for all joining us this evening and taking time out of your day to come learn a little bit more about how we can live with purpose together and how we can make the world better as a result. So with that, I will stop sharing my screen, and we can open up for questions uh, and you can either, yeah, so just if you want to throw questions in the chat, I think that's probably the best way to do it. But Linda, I'll turn it over to you if you have any questions to start.
Well, first, thank you, Liesl, for this, taking us on this journey. I was actually curious about what you would have to say, because it's really easy for my generation to have expectations for somebody who's had a different slice of life. And thank you so much for bringing this. I feel expanded, even though I know and love you. I saw you as a professional just now, and you are sharing things that that I happen to think that the world is looking for helpers now. We're looking for the thoughtful, measured voices, and this is the kind of approach that can make the world a better place for all of us. So I'd like to start with a question, and then please, we're just going to turn the chat loose on questions for Liesl. But one of the things I've noticed in my experience tells me that this idea that Liesl just brought to the forefront about having goals, which God, I probably spent the first half of my life kept making goal after goal and reaching them, and then going into this mode where I'll be happy when. So we all know that person, or we have been them ourselves. The I'll be happy when people are very, very, they're the ones with all the toys. Because they never get happy. They just set another goal. Talk to me about goals without purpose in your experience, or in what you're seeing, maybe in a positive way with your generation.
Yeah, so I think it comes down to the fulfillment thing, right? If we're setting goals without purpose, we're constantly in search of that fulfillment, right? And fulfillment is a happy, good feeling. It's a little bit of a serotonin or a dopamine boost, right? So if we're constantly looking for, our goal of, okay, I'm going to get that nice car, or I'm going to, graduate from this university, and we don't have any purpose behind it, that comes and goes, but it doesn't sustain. And I think a lot of the time, in my personal experience, living when I didn't have an understanding and purpose, I was just sort of like a pinball, like moving from one goal to the next, and not really taking any time to reflect or make meaning out of it. And so I think for my generation, for people that in this hustler mentality, I think that is the center of the hustler mentality, right? Is I'm going to have my first 10K launch, or I'm going to, get my next, my 100,000 followers and have my swipe ups or whatever it is, in the social media generation. And I think very often that leads to a lot of burnout, from people. We call, my age group calls it burnout. And I think we're seeing that happen quite a bit for people. So my hope is that if more and more people are able to find their purpose and apply it to their goals, we are able to avoid burnout, and we're able to then make meaning of when we do or do not achieve our goals.
Great, thank you.
Yeah. Let's see. Gay said, can you talk a little bit more about celebrating when we meet our goals? How do you celebrate? What is the opposite of the hustler mentality? So I think celebrating when we achieve our goals, I think that looks different to every single one of us. I'm probably somebody that wants to tell everybody about it and then maybe have them give me a pat on the back. But I think when we celebrate our goals, it really, I think it's individualized, but I think it's really about sharing them with people that coached us through, that helped us the most. I think there's something wonderfully reciprocal about that moment. Gay, I know that Linda has shared with you her successes when her book went well, and you were such a huge part of that. And I think what happens when we celebrate our successes with the people who made it possible, we start to like radiate outwards, right? Again, ever widening circles, sort of bad analogy there, or bad pun, but it really does make it so the next person is able to help you out. And I think that's just really, really important to how we celebrate. And then I think the opposite of the hustler mentality is the mindful mentality, right? I think understanding really, or maybe the clarity mentality, right? Like, I know what's important to me, and then I know where I want to go next, right? So I think the hustler mentality very often leads to burnout because we're never making meaning of what we're doing or understanding our why behind things. But if we're able to understand our purpose, I think it starts to cut back on the hustler mentality, and we're able to be very selective about what we bring into our life, and it isn't just some mindless engine pushing us forward of, achieving one kind of fruitless goal after the other.
Liesl, are you hopeful about what's to come? I this is the way we look at it. A lot of people have the problems with generations, and Liesl and I have found the best way to think about how she and I are multipliers with each other is like this. And it's like I imagine the earth turning slowly towards me. And Liesl and my team, who are all much younger than I, are standing on that horizon. And they're able to look over and they're able to see what's coming. And of course, I have none of that perspective. I'm way back, 100,000 foot, but I have that look from where I am going forward to where they are, that in between. So I am actually very, very hopeful about the future and your generation's level of curiosity. Your generation doesn't accept the first answer. It sounds like you guys are asking better questions. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, I think that there is something really important about that generational coming together, right? I think that one of the most wonderful things about what we're seeing in this sort of global movement towards living with purpose is that it's not just one generation of people that's being called to do this. It is young people, Gen Zers, it is millennials, it is Gen Xers, it is baby boomers, all of them. It's like we're living in this period where everybody is feeling this need. And I think we have to break down this idea of like the generations not talking to each other. Like if we were asking better questions, then the best question to ask is like, why did we decide that we had to stop listening to one another, right? All of us are on the same, purpose-driven journey, whether we're, we're just maybe at different points on that scale, right? Like the person who just graduated from college might be in the searching mode, or maybe they're in the learning mode. And the person who might be starting their second climb is equally as so in the searching and learning mode. So to me, when we talk about generations, I think what we're looking at is something wonderful that's going to happen where people are no longer, where we don't have to define by generation this purpose-driven journey. We're all on it. I think we all maybe have a different reason why we do it at different age groups, but I think it's wonderful that we're all doing it. And to your question about, asking better questions, I don't know. I think that every generation asks better questions. It may seem interesting to you that we're asking better questions, but we think it's equally as interesting when someone who is older than us asks a better question, because it gives us insight, right? So I think that it isn't a generational thing that someone's asking better questions than the next. What we're all doing is asking questions of the same scenario, of the same reality, but our perspective is different. And so our questions are all going to be different. And I think that's what leads us towards progress, is if we're all asking different questions from different perspectives.
Wow, one more thing I'd love you to comment on, because you tell me this a lot when I'm I'm kind of a hot-tempered person. I'm excitable, and you've taught me to take my contempt and change it to curiosity, because every time I'm so sure about something, you'll give me enough information that I'm like that with myself. So talk to us about changing. In this world, there is so much contempt. That's what we're all just waiting for the other side to say the wrong thing. Talk to us about changing contempt to curiosity, because I know you have this natural way of doing that.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing about changing contempt to curiosity, or even frustration to curiosity, right? If we're trying to live with purpose, and we're trying to figure out what our purpose is in life, we're going to get frustrated. I think that that's just what it's going to be. We're going to have contempt for the person that maybe screwed us over on a business deal, or we're going to have contempt for the situation that we're in, or we're going to have contempt for the people that might be around us. And I think when we're in those moments of contempt, it's really important for us to be able to pause, to be able to ask ourselves why we're feeling that way, and then to be able to flip it to curiosity, to ask a better question of the situation. So to me, the biggest and most important thing that we can do if we want to flip that contempt to curiosity piece is really that pause, is really that taking a minute, if I'm feeling contempt, to let myself process it and then be able to ask a better question out of the situation, right? So, one of the things that we've experienced with Ever Widening Circle is getting this thing started. We knew nothing about, starting a website. And that led to many, many different iterations of people not treating us super great when we wanted to start this website. We got people scoffing at us. We got people, making us pay way too much money for something that wasn't all that good. We got an experience where we had to build our own website and still somehow pay for it, right? Like, we had all of these experiences, and we could have contempt for, and I think we did have contempt in those moments for all this and rage at that situation. But it wasn't until we were able to step back, think about, okay, what just happened? Was there a communication error? Was there, did this person not get it? Did this person just simply say, pat us on the head and then walk us out the door? What happened in those situations? And once we got curious about it, we were able to find the people who actually cared about us, who could actually help us. And I think that's the important thing about curiosity. And especially if you have a good partner in life, or you have a good friend in life, or you have a good somebody who can sometimes help you see outside of yourself. In those moments, really, they can help you turn contempt to curiosity, ask better questions of the situation, and then either not make that mistake again, or be able to re-enter the room or re-enter the moment in a way that opens you up to possibility instead of continuously closing you down.
Mm-hmm. Great. So we're getting kind of near the top of the hour here. I'd like to wrap up. Any other questions, pop them in there. Otherwise, Liesl, thank you for sharing your experience and your good intention with all of us tonight. I know I'm going to think differently about things, and you might think that because she's my daughter, I've had the benefit of all this wisdom, and much of this I'm hearing for the first time, and it will change the way I think about things tomorrow. It'll probably change me starting tonight, and I am going to start using curiosity as my guide through my days and the journey. So thank you so much for bringing this purpose, meaning, goals, and curiosity all together into a really neat ball of insight. I so appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much. And I appreciate everyone coming this evening. And thank you for joining us on this journey. I'll be sending out an email to all of you with this recording if there's pieces that you want to take out of it. And then finally, do join us over on the network. We need people like you there, people who are curious, people who are open, who want to help others, and we'd love to see you at the summit as well. I think if we can have this kind of energy at that event, wow, it would be absolutely brilliant, and I think exactly what we're all looking for. So thank you so much for joining us this evening, and I hope to see you at the next event.